Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name's Adam Smith, and inside this video we head into the finale for Primal the Awakening. We're using the new biome expansion, one of many that came out as part of the Black Friday sales. And if you haven't checked out my series to this point or any of the previous Primal plays I've done, I'll put a link in the top right hand corner, especially part number 1 of this battle, so you can understand exactly how we got to where we're at right now. At the end of part number 1, we were inside of round number 4, which you can see up on the round track right now, and we were at the consume step where we have the option to consume a potion on either hunter. I threw this back to the community in the community post section of my channel, and we got a very tight race in terms of voting. The 2 options out of 4 which were tied was use Almor on Drusk, but not Zera, and the other one was use Almor on both hunters. So we're going to roll a d6 with 1 to 3 and 4 to 6 respectively for each of these options, as it was a tie, and determine which way we're going. So let's go ahead and roll the die and see how we do. We got ourselves a 6. That is going to be the ladder, so we're using Almor on both hunters. So a huge thank you to everybody that watched part number 1 and then voted on what we should do next. We're going to go ahead and consume the potion for Drusk, and that's going to take away 2 damage. We'll do the exact same thing for Zera as well. She has 5 on her. We're going to take off 2. And that will certainly help her from being KO'd. There's one correction I need to go over from part number 1 towards the tail end of the video when we changed stance from 1 to 2, and that's when we hit a health total of 7 on the monster. We were supposed to actually remove this card right here, the peril card, and change it to stance 2's card, as it does not state permanent on it. Now, this didn't trigger from that point onwards, but this might have, and it did, because this monster, when it suffers a wound afterwards, it would actually gain a single struggle based on the calculation here. And you can see when we reach that stance change at 7, we're now at 6, so there should be 1 more struggle here. So a quick fix, both characters have discarded their potions and taken the advantages of some healing. Just 2 points of healing, unfortunately, instead of 4, because the attrition deck does not have a 0 or a 1 on it, and based on how it's been filtered to this point, it's pretty tough to actually land a 0 or 1 at this point, just based on this enemy having specific attrition cards in there and removing 2 1s from the start. And then I believe inside of part number 1, we also lost a couple other cards out of the deck as well that could have helped us that way. So I think it was a wise choice to go ahead and get some healing right now to make sure we can basically endure any damage that comes at us. We're now going to go ahead and do our behavior refresh and add 2 struggle to the monster, which with the 1 we just placed on there and the 3 that was already there, it's going to be a total of 6, which is going to cause an unleash. So the behavior has been refreshed. Now we're going to take our struggle tokens of 6, hitting the threshold, dropping them down to 2, and the unleash will throw a damage at both of our heroes. That's going to bring Drusk up to 2 and Zara up to 4. And the first player marker is going to go to the aggro player, but it's already on her, so we're good to go. As we know from the current stance card, the flank positions are the ones we need to be in order to make a successful attack, and as of right now, she's in the front position. Do we have any behavior things that are going to trigger? No, we'd have to start our turn inside of a flank position right now to trigger a behavior. There's a rampage in there that'll add into the equation, and if we put a yellow card into our sequence, that is going to trigger a behavior, so for right now, we're okay. I'm going to choose to have her stay exactly where she is, so she's going to get a threatened token, but I have a plan to get some movement elsewhere. I'm going to go ahead and play Guided Charge. This is going to cost me 1, so I'll discard Long Reach in order to pay for it with the 1 stamina here. It's also a maneuver card that's going to remove 1 struggle of the 2 the monster has, dropping it down to 1 struggle. Another awesome benefit of this card is the Reclaim on there. So essentially what that means is if I have 2 yellow cards in my sequence, I can go to my discard pile and find a card that has the Reclaim keyword on it, and I get to take that and put it into my hand, hence Reclaim. It's pretty awesome, but I don't have that right now, so we're skipping past that. It says below, though, another cool ability, you may immediately move without paying stamina costs. So I'm going to go ahead and move, which will take away my threatened token. That's going to bring me into the same space because I'm purposely trying to stay away from crossing lava. I don't want to get the burn condition and suffer anything from that. Threatened is going to go away here, and then it says choose another player in your sector, and that's awesome because Drusk is in my sector now in order to do their weapon damage to the enemy, and it's only going to be 1, but 1 is better than nothing. I should say the monster has 1 on it right now, so up to a total of 2 damage. The next card from my hand I'm going to play is going to help me with the attrition check mainly. I could also trigger this and move again if I wanted to, but I'm not going to. I'm going to stay exactly where I am. Next, I'm going to play Sentinel's Lunge, paying with this card here, my last card in hand, discarded to do it, and because I have a green card before it, I can trigger this, increasing the damage this attack deals by my weapon level for each card with guard in the discard pile. So I'm going to go into the discard pile right now and see how many guards I got in there. I got 1, 2, let's see, do I have a third one? Yep, 3, and that's it. So I've got 3 extra on top of it. Now, there's quite a few things that are happening here, which is pretty cool. So first off, my base weapon damage I get for playing a red card is going to be 2. And then with the 3 guard cards that were in my discard pile, that is going to be times by my weapon level, which is 1. So 3 times 1 is going to be 3. So 2 plus 3 is 5 damage right there. And I've been charging this up since part number 1. We're at level 3 of our rhythm for Drusk, and when another character uses our red card in their sequence, we can choose to use his rhythm, and that's going to support with additional damage. It'll be 6 times his weapon level, so that's going to be 6 damage on top of the 5 for a total of 11 going into this one. Now, before I place the 11 damage on for the attack in total, thanks to Drusk as well, we also don't want to forget about the move damage I get off the spear when I moved from one sector to another. Anytime she moves, she does damage to the enemy. So that's going to be 1 damage for her move, and so you can see why maybe using the second movement could have been beneficial just for additional damage, but I want it to be on the right side, the flank, to actually do this red attack damage of 11, which is absolutely nuts. So we're going to go ahead and place that on now as well and see what thresholds and how many times we're hitting it, as our threshold now is 6. So we've hit that threshold at least 2 times over with how much we have here at 14. That's going to be 12 taken away, left with 2. So Felaxir does not like that at all, dropping 2 wounds down to 4. If we get to 3, that's going to be the next stance change. We also see here for Peril, it says when this monster suffers a wound, it's going to gain 1 struggle, and that's based on the calculation there of Hunter's -1, so 2 minus 1 is 1, and that's for every wound. We just did 2 wounds, so that's 2 more struggle going back on the monster, jumping it back up to 3. The best part about this is that there's no reactions behavior-wise from the monster triggering at this point. So an epic hit from Zara. We're now done her turn, and we're going to check the attrition to see whether we can handle it. We've got 1 currently in there, so we're hoping to see a 1 or a 0 here on this card, and we got the 1, so no damage coming through. So it was an absolutely awesome turn overall. We also got to keep our stamina token. You'll see I didn't use it in order to do any kind of movement because I had cards that allowed me to do so. End of turn is discarding the sequence, drawing up to 5 cards, and the monster will turn towards her. And cards-wise, we have Elusive Maneuver, we have Regroup, Focus Defense, Graceful Stride, and Flanking Dance. Now, the even better news about this situation is because the monster turned to face Drusk, there's no trigger for behavior like there would have been if it had remained in the same position. So we are very lucky that way because this would have triggered and then rampage, but we have nothing to deal with up there, so we can get right into his turn. Do we want to move? Yes, we probably want to get into a position to do some damage if we can. Now, I'm going to take a riskier road here. I'm going to choose to have him move and not place any defense whatsoever in his sequence when we go to the attrition check. So keep that in mind. It could be a little bit dicey on that front. We're going to go ahead and discard this card right here in order to get him to move into a flank sector. Next, going to play a card called Ascended Blow. This is going to cost 1. I'll be discarding this blue maneuver card. That's important because I'm planning on discarding another blue maneuver on top of it to start getting his rhythm level going back up again. The blue maneuver also allows me to remove a struggle, which I've done, dropping it from 3 to 2. Next, I'm going to play Rhythmic Smash. This is an attack here, and it's great for a number of reasons. We're going to pay for it with this blue maneuver here, and by doing so, that is a second one that is the same color going into his deck. So rhythm-wise, we get to jump ourselves up on the level track just off screen below here to 1, so we're building ourselves back up. The card allows me and another player to draw a card. So we each get a new card, which is awesome. We're going to go ahead and draw that up. I got Echo of Resilience for Drusk. And Zara on the other side got Backlash. Now let's go ahead and calculate the damage we get. So obviously a red attack card gives the 1 damage down below, but this is going to trigger as well because we have the sequence correct. Increase the damage the attack deals by 2 times the weapon level. So that's going to be 2 times 1 is 2. So we're going to get up to 3 damage so far. And we get an additional increase to damage right here because we have a blue and red in that sequence. So it's going to be a total of 4, which is perfect because we have 2 already on the monster for a total of 6, meaning we get to place another wound. So 4 more damage going on to the monster right now. Is probably not very happy about this. And we're putting a wound on, dropping it down to 3, which is going to trigger a stance change. I've revealed stance number 3. Now it's going to be a total of 8 damage for the threshold to get a wound. For the final 3, we need to take this thing down. We also have an effect that right now is going to triggering all behavior cards in play with the Rampage icon reaction, which will be this one right here. So this one is going to trigger in a moment. I'm also going to check out the Peril card here to see if the third stance one has anything for us. This is a pretty nasty card. It says, when you perform an attrition check, reveal an additional attrition card and use the one that gives you the worst outcome. So very much like the threatened token, this is now just a standard thing. And when the attrition deck is emptied, players in the front sector suffer damage. That's terrible because that is going to trigger in the near future because my deck is currently empty. We're going to do things in order, though, starting with the stance, triggering all of the Rampage cards, which is just one. We've seen this one before. This is going to have us revealing cards from the top of both characters' deck because we're in the flank and front sector. So let's go ahead for Drusk and see what color he gets. He got himself a green, whereas on the other side with Zara, she got herself a yellow. Struggle is now at 4. Let's replenish the behavior card. The peril card is going to activate right now because the attrition deck is emptied, and that means the front sector individual, Zara, is going to be taking a damage, bringing her back up to 5 where we started the video. That's not good. 4 more, and she's KO'd. That's going to end off Drusk's turn right there. He's got a card in hand, but he's not going to use it. He doesn't gain a stamina because he doesn't have 2 or more cards. We're doing the attrition check, and so now we need to reshuffle the attrition deck to draw it. Let's find out what's coming his way. Hopefully it's a 0, but I doubt it. Let's see. We got ourselves a 1, and it's a special one for this monster. It says on it, when revealed, reveal an additional attrition card and use the one that gives the worst outcome. The next one was a 2. Either way, he was in trouble. The 2 is the worser of the 2 cards we pulled, but at least we burnt some cards that are nasty. Now, what makes things even more crazy is it says right here, when you perform an attrition check, reveal 1 additional attrition card and use the one that gives you the worst outcome. So technically, even with the reveal one we pulled, we should actually be pulling another one as well due to this. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. That's going to be a 0. That's unfortunate. That's one I would have loved to have kept in there. So we had to pull 3 in the end for that. But regardless, he failed, and the damage he's taking is 2. But we're going to use an environmental effect here to help us out. We have a rock in our area, and when we suffer attrition damage, we can choose to use the rock in order to avoid that damage. So that's going to negate all the damage coming towards him, and we know this is the worst it's going to get in terms of the attrition check damage because we're in the final stance, so it's a great time to use it. That's going to do it for his turn. We're going to discard his sequence as played back in the discard. We're going to drop to 5 cards. I'll keep the one I have here and draw 4. And then we're going to go ahead and move the monster rotating to face him because we did use Rhythmic Smash and it has the aggro token. He's also going to be taking the aggro token at this time as well. And I should have taken that at the moment I played the card. And here's a look at the cards in hand. Echo of Resilience, Sundering Impact, Hunting Pulse, Rhythmic Insight, and Call of the Primordials. We now move into round number 5, and each character loses 5 cards off the top of their decks into the discard pile. Zara had these 3 left in her deck. They're now gone, and we're going to reshuffle her deck, suffer the consequences of that, and then draw 2 more to discard. After refreshing her deck, 2 more cards discarded. These are going in her discard, and also she's gaining another damage thanks to fatigue damage. So she's now up to 6, and she only has 9 before she's KO'd. And from Drusk, he's losing all 5 of these cards to the discard pile. Now it's time for a behavior refresh, and unfortunately, struggle tokens being added on will hit the threshold of 6 yet again. The behaviors have been refreshed. The one that had the lowest value number has now been replaced, and we're also adding the 2 struggle I mentioned here for a total of 6, and that means it's going to trigger, and we're going to have, unfortunately, 2 damage going to both characters. And as we've seen before, 2 struggle stays there, and with Drusk having 2 wounds, he's now going up to 4 wounds, and Zara has a total of 6, jumping up to 8. Things did seem like they were under control there for a while, but now it's getting a little bit intense. The first player marker is moving over from one character to the next, who has the aggro token, which is Drusk. And Drusk is starting his turn at the front section of the monster, so there's nothing here behavior-wise we have to worry about. This is on flank side only, and these are specific to sequence cards going in. I think I managed to put something together here that might be pretty good. We'll see how it goes. So first off, we unfortunately have to discard a card to get in the right position. We want to be on the side in order to make an attack here. So we'll go ahead and discard this card right here in order to do that, getting the stamina to shift over to the flank position. We're also discarding a card from our hand that matches the top of the deck, so we get to increase our rhythm by 1. I'm playing Sundering Impact and paying for it with Rhythmic Insight. We'll go ahead and discard that. We don't gain any rhythm boost for that one as it doesn't match the same color. We also don't get the removing of struggle because we have not fully flipped this card over. But speaking of the Thundering Drum, we have 1 counter on it. I'm going to get up to the second counter with what I plan to do this turn, and then eventually we'll be able to make use of those icon effects. But as of right now, we just have a hit of weapon damage going against the enemy in this case, which is 1 on the War Drum. That's all there is to the attack for the moment, and the behavior of the enemy is going to trigger this one right here. And it says, Crystal Shards, the active player is going to suffer damage unless they have a yellow in their sequence, and I do not have one. On top of it, it's being enhanced, so the active player is going to be suffering an additional 1 on top of it, so it's going to discard 1 to do the enhancement. So 2 damage coming to Drusk, unfortunately jumping me up to 6 wounds total. Now, as soon as I replenish that behavior card, the deck up here emptied, so escalation occurs. We reshuffle this deck to create a new one, and it gains a struggle. And unfortunately, that's going to place a Rampage card on the top of this deck, so in the future, we'll be dealing with that coming in. Now let's go ahead and play another red card into the fray. It's going to be called Call of the Primordials. It's going to cost 2, so I'm discarding this card here, Hunting Pulse, to pay for it. I have no cards left in hand now. This says it's going to do, of course, the base damage for my weapon, which is 1, but it's also going to increase the damage the attack deals by what is on the stance card, which is 2, so it'll end up being 3 damage. On top of 3 damage, we also gain the benefit because we played 2 attack cards with the same trait keyword at the bottom here. And when you play that second one in next to it, you're going to go ahead and do that exact same effect twice, which means another 2 damage for a total of 5, bringing us up to 6 damage on the boss. And that's not enough to hit its threshold, which is currently at 8, 4 times the number of hunters, which is 2. So 8, we're working our way up. But what it does do is place another counter here. When you play 2 consecutive cards with this keyword on the bottom, you place a counter. But once you hit 2, which equals what's at the top of the card here, of course, you don't need to flip it to 3 to be a 2. We just grab another 1 token, but it's going to flip anyway. We now can check out what this is all about. Thundering Drum says you can taunt the monster by discarding a card with this keyword from your hand. At the start, if you have a card with the keyword in your hand, you can search your discard pile for another card with this keyword and add it into your hand. So that is very beneficial. The monster has no reactions to us at this time. We're going to go ahead and do the attrition check, which probably won't be good for me because at the moment I don't have any defense. So let's see how this goes. Uh-oh, it's a 1. Oh, unfortunate. So we are going to be taking 2 damage, bringing us up to a total of 8. We are now on the razor's edge with both characters at 8, and 9 will KO either of them. However, Drusk is going to hide behind the rock that's in his sector in order to avoid the 2 damage from attrition. At this point, we have no more environmental effects we can use on this side of the game board. If we hop over to the opposite side, past the lava there could be some benefits, but we will be suffering burning, which is not so great. Now, I've drawn up my hand of 5 cards at the moment, and as you can see, my deck is empty. I'll show you these cards in a moment. Unfortunately, when my deck is empty, I have to replenish it. That causes fatigue damage. That's going to be based on my weapon level, which is 1, so we're taking a single point of damage, bringing us up to 7. And here's what I have inside my hand right now: Defensive Pulse, Hymn of Refuge, Reverbium, Backbeat, and Ghost Note. And as you likely noticed a few clips ago, I turned this monster to face the aggro character, which in this case right now is Drusk. Unfortunately, Zara has to deal with a middle behavior on the dashboard. This one here, she starts in the front sector of the monster. This probably isn't going to be good. It's called Claw of Fate. The active player reveals the top card of their deck. During the action phase this turn, the active player must either play a card of that color as the first card in their sequence or suffer 2 damage. Well, let's find out what the top card of the deck is. We have to have a blue card as our very first one in play, and that's unfortunate because the blue card will also trigger another behavioral card. And the new card that came in is a Rampage card with another Rampage card behind it. Not good. I'm going to spend a stamina token from Zara in order to move her over here to a flank position, which should work. And we're definitely going to play a blue maneuver card as our first one in the sequence to avoid that damage from the behavior card. We'll pay for Elusive Maneuver with this card right here, discarding this. And I'm not really going after my Pierce here, which might have me putting more maneuver cards in my sequence. I haven't really been focusing on that all that much because it hasn't worked for my strategy yet. But we'll see what happens here. We get to draw 1 off of this. We also get to remove a struggle. There's 2 in the monster, dropping it down to 1, thankfully for that. Now, this is an after-the-fact catch, but essentially during the attrition check, I should have drawn an additional card as it states right here. So we'll go ahead and do it. Doesn't change any gameplay besides ensuring we burn another card here because we knew Drusk didn't have anything to stop the damage anyway besides using that rock. And getting back to Zara here, I'm going to change up which card I use to actually pay for this because I can get a better benefit if I do. I'm going to discard this green one instead, Graceful Stride. The reason I'm doing this instead of the yellow one I mentioned moments ago is because, I put that yellow one back in my hand by the way, is because I want to take advantage of a 2-card draw instead of just a single card draw. So let's pull 2 cards into our hand. We got this one and this one going into our hand, which will give us some nice options. Before we go any further in our turn, though, a behavior is going to trigger as we played a blue card into our sequence that'll also trigger a Rampage. It's called Mirror Image, and it says the active player reveals the top card of their deck. That player suffers 2 damage unless the card is a blue. This is absolutely terrifying. So is it going to be a blue off the top of the deck? It is. It actually is a blue, a side sweep card. We're not out of the woods yet, though, and again, remember, we're on the razor's edge with Zara. She has 1 more damage to take before she gets KO. This one says the aggro player reveals the top card of their deck. If that card is a defensive card, they suffer damage. If it ends up, if it's a maneuver card, they're going to suffer damage. If it's a defensive-based card, they're going to give struggle to the monster. So the aggro player's actually Drusk. Drusk is the aggro character, so we're going to go ahead and reveal the card, and it is a defensive icon, so a struggle going to the monster. That's going to resolve all the behaviors that trigger. Right now, we can head back to Zara's turn, and we got to replenish these behaviors as well. Now look at this nightmare. If we start in a side position of this enemy, we're going to trigger all 3 behavior cards. Next up, I'm going to play Striking Weakness. I want to keep my defenses up as we have a lot of damage on us right now. And this one's going to cost 2 in order to pay for it. So we're going to use this card here, Regroup. It has this aggro icon up here, and it says if you pay with an aggro icon, inflict vulnerable. So we get a defense there, and we also get to inflict vulnerable on the boss, which is awesome. The vulnerable token is in play, which is awesome because when we deal damage to the monster, we can discard the vulnerable token to double the damage. At the end of the round, though, if it's in play still, you remove the token from the monster board. So you may use it throughout the round it's been placed, but if you don't use it, it's going to disappear. It's going to double damage, and you definitely want to use it. Now, at the moment, we're also not pulling the aggro token over because we still have not played a card into our sequence that has aggro in the top right-hand corner. Now, a quick correction here. No major gameplay impact, but I forgot to place a damage for my Great Spear. When I move from this sector to this sector, I do that for some weird reason quite often. We place a damage here. That's going to be a total of 7. We still need 1 more to get a wound. And the ability I'm talking about is at the bottom of the Great Spear. It's very easy to forget that when you've got cards going, you're building combos, and you've got the behaviors triggering, all kinds of stuff to think about. I've got 4 cards in hand here, and 2 of them are attack red cards. I want to make sure I can handle the attrition check in the future. Let's place this one in here. Focus defense. It'll allow me to draw 1 once we discard this to pay for it. So this card's going in the discard pile. And we're going to go ahead and again, I have not synced up any maneuver cards to be able to bump up my Pierce. Again, not doing a great job of that, but I'm trying to stay alive at this point. We'll go ahead and draw 1 up and see what we get. It doesn't trigger any behaviors from the enemy. We got side sweep. We knew that because we revealed that earlier. Next, I'm going to play a red attack card into my sequence. This is Backlash, costs nothing to put it in, and it's going to allow me to right now go ahead and just do my weapon damage only, which is 2. And 2 damage is good enough because that's going to push this thing up to 9, and we only need 8 to get a wound. Now, I got 1 more attack coming in a second, so I'll hold off on using the vulnerable token for the moment. I'm thinking about comboing my rhythm with the vulnerable token and an attack from her. We'll see how it goes, but first, let's just get rid of all this and get ourselves a wound. There's also no behavior reactions at this point. Let's go to our final card we can put in our sequence because the maximum is 5 and we have 4. The final card I'm going to put in there is going to be another free one called Flanking Dance. This will do 2 damage. It says when you discard this card from your hand to generate stamina for movement, you deal your weapon damage. I didn't use it like that, but it's going to be 2 damage from this. And the thing I'm trying to decide is whether I use the rhythm level that I have, dropping this down to 0 to get 2 more damage to 4, and then use my vulnerable token to make it 8. I think time is of the essence, and we should absolutely go ahead and do that because 8 would be another wound on the enemy. So we'll drop that down to 0. We'll take off the vulnerable token, and it's only got 1 life left. So an absolutely crazy, tense, and close game we got going here. Zara has 1 more wound to be able to be taken out KO-wise. Drusk can handle 2 more before he's taken out, and 1 more wound for the monster, and it's gone. So it's really come down to the wire. Now, the good news is I did finally place 2 maneuver cards side by side here, so we get to gain 1 for Pierce, which is awesome, but we don't get to ever use Pierce until it's actually up to level 4. I've got 1 card left in hand. We'll keep it like that so I don't get a stamina token right now. And we're going for the attrition check, and we know we have 2 for our defense. We're going to see what comes out of the deck. We know we're drawing 1 normally and 2 because we're in stance 2, or I should say stance 3. I don't want to forget it this time. We got a 1, so we're good there. Are we good on the next one here if it's worse? And there's the 2. And thank goodness we actually have exactly what is required based on the card here, which is awesome. It does say when revealed, each player in the front sector suffers damage unless they reveal a green from their hand. Wow, that is not going to be Zara. She's not in the front. It's actually going to be Drusk. This playthrough has been insane in terms of how tense this has been. Let's see what happens off the top of the deck here. It is, in fact, green. He blocks it. All right, so we got 1 card left in hand. We're going to clean up things from our sequence. We're going to drop 5 cards, and we got a good thick deck, so we're not going to be taking any fatigue damage, and that would have been bad because, of course, that would put us into KO territory. And the monster is actually not going to spin because all the cards that we played were non-aggro cards, which is pretty insane and actually works out perfectly strategy-wise based on the behavior of the enemy. You're going to see in a second why it was really important that I didn't play any aggro cards this turn. This is the card I already had in hand, and these are the 4 new ones that I just drew up and were safe from fatigue. Also worth mentioning, if you saw a stamina token down here, that was one that I already used in the past and discarded down into this area, so I do not have one at this moment. That is going to end off another round. We are headed into round number 6. The intensity and the heat of this battle continues to increase. We are now losing 6 cards off the top of the deck. Is that going to hit our fatigue? This is insane. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No, it has 3 cards left in its deck. These are the ones we have lost. Blinding Strike, Vigilant Guard, Dodger's Edge, Escape. Sentinel's Lunge is a great one. Dashing Leap. Those are all in the discard. And Drusk has a much bigger deck, so we're a little bit safer on this side because he recently replenished 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 cards coming off the top. He's losing all of these: Driving Rhythm, Resonant Call, Hunting Pulse, Echo of Resilience, Call the Primordials, and Drums of Vengeance in the discard. A behavior refresh is coming, which is unfortunate because I've been really working well with what currently is in here, but something's going to change. It's just going to be one of the Rampage cards actually being removed, so it's not too bad. We'll go ahead and take that out, and we have a new card coming in. It's going to be a yellow-based one, so there we go. And we have 2 Struggle being added to the pile here, so we'll flip over one of the ones, remove the other ones. We have 3. And Drusk has the aggro token, so he's holding on to the first player token and begins the first player turn. I'm going to discard this card from hand in order to get him to move into this sector to flank. I'm going to play this card here, Backbeat, which allows me to draw one. Now that I've actually opened this up, you can see the icon matches. So now that this is opened up, I can actually take advantage of this draw one. But first, I have to pay for this. I'm going to use this yellow one because I do not want to trigger the behavior up here. And I just put a yellow in my discard recently. So now I can bump up my rhythm level. We're also going to take advantage of the draw one right now. I've also got myself something to help me with attrition checks. And we got ourselves Resounding Strike. That sounds great. The next card I'm going to play in my sequence is a wild one. It's called Ghost Note. This one's going to cost nothing, and it says exile the top card of your deck. So that means take the top card. It's not going to be in play or part of your deck anymore for the rest of this battle. You can play it, though, into your sequence this turn if you want to. So that's cool. But also notice the keyword down here, which is going to match this, meaning when I place this in here, not only will it help me out for struggle, dropping the monster's struggle down to 2, it is also going to be allowed to be done twice because it's got that keyword that is in line. So we're going to go ahead and pull the top card off and exile it, but we can also use it if we want. This one is a Sound Shield. When another player would suffer attrition damage, you may discard this card from your hand to prevent that damage. Wow. So this is being exiled unless I want to play it in. Trying to think here. I might actually want to play it in, but then I don't get that ability here. I just get the Sound Shield part, but I do want to bump up. I don't want to take any damage, so maybe I will. Maybe I will actually just play this in. So we'll go like that, and we're going to draw again because the Ghost Note gets to happen twice. Oh, actually, you know what? I'm not going to do that because that would trigger the behavior. I don't want to do that. Forget that. Not happening. Let's go to the next one. And it's a red. This is great. This is what I was hoping for, something like this. Look at this. This is great. So we're going to play this one in. As it says, it's going to be an attack. It increases your rhythm level by 1. So it's going to jump up by 1 to 2. So Awakened Fury is going to give me 1 damage based on my weapon damage, but then I also have a blue and a red in line. So down here, the weapon tells me I can increase it by 1, so now it's going to be 2. I could use my level because I don't think my rhythm is going to get up any higher at this point based on discarding cards and color-wise. So I might actually just cash this in to get the 2 damage. So it's going to be 2 on top of the 2, which is now 4. So we'll go ahead and add a 5 damage counter, removing the 1 because we went from 1 and we're going up to 5, the addition of 4. And we just need 3 more damage to get the victory. And we're not done there. I've got 2 cards left in hand. I'm using Resounding Strike for another attack here. And this is going to cost 1, discarding my last card in hand to pay for it. And this does not help me out at all with the rhythm or bumping that up. But it says right here, we're going to get the 1 off the War Drum. We don't get anything for the linkage of blue and red at all because everything's disconnected now. Unfortunately, the keyword didn't happen twice in a row here because this one was forcibly put in due to another effect. And I really wish it could have doubled up. That would have been awesome. But this will be 1 damage, and then it says increase the damage this attack deals by your weapon level. So that's another 1. So it's 2 damage, which means we're 1 shy. And as of right now, we have nothing to worry about in terms of triggers up here. Nothing triggering at all. Into the attrition check we go. I do not know how this is going to go, but let's find out. So the top card here is a 2. That is well beyond what I have for defense. Not good. And this is a 3. So we're definitely getting hit for the 2 damage. And unfortunately, that is going to KO Drusk. Also, keep in mind the peril card here is saying when the attrition deck is emptied, which it just emptied, players in the front sector get hit for 2 damage based on the stance card. Thankfully, we're in the flank, and she doesn't get affected at the moment. When you're knocked out, you go through these steps in order. If you're the active player, your turn ends right away. You remove all damage tokens from your character and any other tokens on your board. You also, if you have the aggro token, which I do, you're going to transfer that over to the other character. You discard your entire hand of cards if you have any, and you add a wound card to your discard pile, reshuffle your discard pile into your deck. You get to choose your armor or helm card that is not currently depleted, and you place a deplete token on that card, and we'll talk about that in a second. You lay down your miniature on the board. We are now knocked out in terms of Drusk, and we take a KO token and place it on the hunter board, red side face up. The monster then turns to the aggro character. All right, so we got a wound token we're shuffling into the deck right now. My character's knocked over. We got a token here to represent KO. It's going to go through a number of phases here as we eventually are able to get back up again, and it starts in the red side of the equation. We also have depleted 1. We get to choose which one we want to deplete, and that affects our health going forward. So now instead of having the 9, a depleted armor means that I've chosen to keep my base armor for my health going or coming back from being KO'd, so I only have 5 health. Of course, if I chose it the other way around, it wouldn't be smart because I'd only be coming back with 4, so I obviously chose the better option here. But besides that, right now, Drusk is not helping the equation. And the monster's going to swivel around and face the KO'd character, which is Drusk, and that's going to put Zara right in the crosshairs. This ends up working out really well for Zara, though, because she's not in a flank sector to start her turn. She is going to avoid playing yellow cards in her sequence to avoid any triggers happening up there, plus the Rampage card. Drusk did everything possible to set up Zara for a victory here, and he couldn't have done any better because in this situation right now, she simply just has to move, and by moving alone, as I forgot a couple times along the way and retroactively put damage on the monster throughout this video, which was a simple move of her from one sector to another, her Great Spear puts a damage once per round, which is fantastic. So she's going to go ahead and discard any card she has. It does not matter. She's going to shuffle over to the flank side, and it doesn't matter what side she's on. You're dealing a damage here with the Great Spear, and that is the single point of damage. Ironically, the funniest way that I could have taken out this monster based on how I played through this video, and that is going to do it. Now, what's absolutely insane about this situation is that by getting that 8, which is enough to kill off this monster, what's absolutely incredible about this is how close I came to losing with just Zara having a single point of health left. I was so close to losing here in this situation, but just the way we played defensively, again, I didn't lean as much into her abilities. I didn't really go after her card here. I didn't use her Pierce as much. Normally I would. In other plays I've had off camera, I have used her, but just the way things unfolded, I had to do things on a defensive stance to keep myself alive and give myself a shot, and it just barely worked out because I was so close. One wrong move there along the way, and this would have been over the second Drusk went down because Zara would have been the first one to go down for sure. So Zara is truly the hero. She gets to the flank sector, and she spears Felaxir for a single damage, taking it down. And that, my friends, wraps up the showcase. Checking out a new biome expansion, the new characters. There's even more beyond this with nightmare decks and everything else, but these biome expansions in terms of the mats are not just a visual upgrade from the game. They're going to add those effects into play. They're going to make you play differently every time you play Primal. And what's really cool about it is that every monster is compatible across all the different biome expansion mats, so you can have a lot of fun with the mixing and matching of what those things are going to do in terms of interacting with the boss versus the environment the boss is inside of. It just makes for some very cool battles. And be sure to let me know what you think of the playthrough in the comments down below. I had an absolute blast with this one. I would love to hear from you guys. Don't be shy. And also, if you're new here or you've been here for a long time, you've never checked out the Discord channel or the Facebook group, we would love to have you join either or both of those locations, talking about solo games that have hit retail, crowdfunding, and everything in between. And if you enjoy what I do and you want to support the channel and see it grow even further, be sure to check out the membership option on the front homepage of the channel. You'll see a join button there where you can jump in and get additional perks. I got some exciting things coming for members in the near future you're going to want to check out, and there's mentions of that inside the community post sections for those members. Thank you guys so much for watching. Can't wait for the next gameplay video. And as always, keep on rolling solo.